Fashion is, more than anything else, a question of perspective. Clothes that may appear ridiculous to some are beautiful to others. Designers from around the world have arrived in Paris to showcase their offerings for next winter, and their approaches vary wildly. Perhaps the strangest among them is the master of counterculture, Owens.
I felt like I'd had enough protest. I had talked enough about protest. I had talked enough about decline. I had to change my direction and think more about what's the most positive reaction after protest, and that is to find a way to lead a life as civilized as possible. And that's why I used the Beethoven too, because I thought, what is more civilized than Beethoven?
He may be enthralled by classical music, but Owens hasn't strayed too far from his core passions: deconstructed shapes and exaggerated volumes.
Amazing, absolutely amazing. I think the clothes and the music and the location go so well to convey the feeling of like you're in a trance. It was like spooky and fly and fashionable all at the same time.
The show's being held in the basement of Paris's modern art mecca, the Palais de Tokyo.
It's so beautiful, so artistic. The piano, I wish I was playing it.
Fashion and music make easy bedfellows. Designer Christelle Kocher chose to showcase her latest collections at the Folies Bergère Theatre with its vintage music hall atmosphere.
The Folies Bergère was actually where all my ideas began. All my embroidery, all that research. I wanted all that work to be really visible. It's almost like I wanted to frame it. I wanted it to be really intimate. I think it's the perfect setting.
The collection is an artful balancing act between couture and streetwear, Parisian silhouettes that ooze nonchalance.
To see my boobs, I'm gonna change here.
Fashion designers don't work in a bubble. Collections can be inspired by everything from politics and music to art and urban landscapes. For Olivier Rousteing, that inspiration is Paris, the city of light.
I really care about diversity and multiculturalism. It's important to champion change. I think that women that you saw today were strong women, women who like taking risks, women who have real self-confidence, and I love that. I love strong women.
Clothes can be decorative, but they can also function as armor, a layer of protection as you make your way through life.
It really makes you feel great. It's invigorating. There's something really urban there, and I like it.
Collections often arise from a wide range of influences, and John Galliano Bill Gaytten fuses elegance and extravagance in an homage to Italian heiress and muse Luisa Casati, an icon of the early 20th century.
And the inspiration was Casati, so it's quite decadent and rich and, yeah, just eclectic. Galliano is nothing if not eclectic.
As for a soundtrack to offset the retro chic aesthetic, only punk-infused British bands would do.
We wanted to contrast it again to give it a British. So I thought Sex Pistols and Adamant was quite good. Rap, punky, rock and roll. I love the Sex Pistols and Adamant. It's kind of my period.
Chinese designer Masha Ma is also embracing the spirit of rebellion. She spent her childhood in Beijing, studied in London, and now lives between Paris and Shanghai.
This collection is about punk, so it's a combination with sharp tailoring and also kind of self-destroyed pieces.
Punk is not dead.
Never.
Masha Ma was the first designer from mainland China to be accepted into London's prestigious Central St. Martin's Fashion School.
I think she represents the new generation of Chinese, in fashion. And I think a lot of cool people, young people here, I think people just love her style. Yeah, me too.
Masha Mah's work is in many ways a continuation of the Japanese aesthetic of the 1980s. While the West was busy creating huge shoulder pads and pushing lurid colours, Japanese minimalism was starting to make its voice heard. Leading the pack was Yohji Yamamoto.
The avant-garde of the 80s became one genre of young people's destroying clothing. And I hate it. So I wanted to find a new way of avant-garde.
The Japanese designer has a unique approach. He shuns trends, loves layering and drapery, and is a long-time champion of the colour black.
If I become the history of fashion designer in the future, I want to be called layered designer.
You may find these collections strange, beautiful, or even alarming. And that's the point. Next winter's fashion offerings have a point of view for everyone.